All right, my name is Dr. Kasarachi Hayford Innocent. I'm a lecturer with the University of Port Harcourt, also an associate lecturer with one or two other universities. I'm also a radio presenter, an editor, and author. And then I am advocate for disability rights. I'm here at this conference to present my keynote address for the participants on this year's Shaping the Future conference. And one of the goals, the SDG goals that appeals to me is the one that deals with eradicating inequalities. The world has said that by the year 2030, there is a plan to eradicate inequalities, that is taking care of vulnerable groups, vulnerable people, like the old, like the young, like people living with disabilities, like children living with disabilities and all that. And from my perception as a person living with disability and also as a disability advocate, I want to say without equivocation that Nigeria is doing next to nothing, to achieving these goals. And I have my reasons. And reason number one is that there are still inequalities when it comes to a lot of things concerning people living with disabilities. For instance, the venue of this program is a public building, but there's no ramp. So if I had come here on a wheelchair, I wouldn't have been able to access the hall to present my paper. And then apart from that, you have other things like educational inequality. There are no opportunities for people living with disabilities, to have equal access to education. Let me give you an instance. In the whole of Nigeria, as far as I can remember, only 2 universities offer law to people that have visual impairment, which means if somebody is visually impaired, the access, the probability, the possibility of going to school, accessing university education is almost zero. Okay, then you come to, we're not even talking about people living with auditory impairment and the rest of them, people living with cerebral palsy. In fact, people living with disabilities in Nigeria are labeled and consigned to the dustbin. They are denied access. What about employment? Okay, when I left the university with the first class, I stayed for 2 years. I applied for jobs. I went for interviews. I wasn't taken, not because I didn't pass, but simply because I am physically challenged. And the policy is still, the practice is still the same till tomorrow, till today. Is there. So what about access to job, livelihood? So how will you be talking about eradicating inequalities when you can't give access to people living with disabilities? So as far as I'm concerned, Nigerian policymakers have to deliberately rise up. The government needs to rise up to start from somewhere. We're not saying everything can be done at once, but let's start from somewhere. People who living with disability, vulnerable groups are also people, they are also citizens, and they need to be given equal access as their other counterparts in Nigeria. If we do this, then we will be talking about achieving the SDGs, but if we don't do this, I'm afraid we may achieve every other goal, but eradicating inequalities among groups and individuals in society will remain zero for me by 2030. Thank you.